Hi everyone, this is William from the Headphone Experience. I'm here tonight with something a little bit different. This is my first impressions of the creative SoundBlaster X5. And what makes this a little bit different is this is a headphone amp and DAC that's actually intended for gamers. And this was loaned to me for review by Creative Labs. And they contacted me a couple months ago and asked me if I was interested in reviewing any of their headphones or amps. Well, I didn't really know much about them, and I asked them if they had anything in mind, and they sent me a link and suggested that I take a look at this, the SoundBlaster X5. So, it is a headphone amp and a DAC, but it's also made for gaming, and I told them, I said, I'm really not into gaming. In fact, I'm not into gaming at all. I haven't been for many, many years. But I said I'd be fine with doing a review of this as a headphone amp and DAC, and so they agreed to send me one, and it's been a while. I've actually received it a couple months ago, but I had a problem with it. The first one ended up being defective, and I'll explain that a little further in a few minutes. But anyway, so I'm finally getting around to doing my first impressions of this. So I'll start out with, once again, this was loaned to me by Creative Labs for review, and it has a current price of $279.99, and that is in US dollars. This is a combination headphone amp with a built-in DAC, and like I mentioned earlier, it is intended for gamers, so it has ways to connect a mic or a gaming headset or whatever. So, but the main thing that this thing does have is a ton of features, and I'll go into that. It's a long list. First of all, it has 3 digital inputs, and that would be a USB input, an optical, or what do you call it? I'm sorry, Toshlink optical input, and then also Bluetooth. It is a Bluetooth receiver. It has 1 digital output, and that would be optical. It also has another port that is a USB type A port on the back of it, and it looks to me like it's both an in and out port, because according to the website, this unit, you can plug in a Bluetooth transmitter, which is optional but sold through Creative, and use this to actually transmit a Bluetooth signal to your headphones or whatever, and or you can use that. It's called a USB host plug or jack on the back, and you can use that to hook up USB speakers, USB mic, or USB headset to this. It has 2 analog inputs. One is RCA, single-ended, and that would be on the rear, and it has a 3.5-inch analog input on the front for a mic, and it also has a volume control to control the mic level. It has 3 analog outputs. One would be a set of RCA outputs on the back, and it has 2 headphone jacks on the front. One would be 3.5 millimeter single-ended, and the other would be a 4.4 millimeter balanced headphone output on the front. It also has a built-in EQ, which has 3 settings. One is for music, one is for games, and one is for movies, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes when I get into the sound. The headphone amp has 2 gain settings, high and low. The DAC is a set of dual Cirrus Logic CS 43198 chips, and Creative Labs claims a dynamic range of 130 decibels on this. They do not list, or I couldn't find where they listed the signal to noise ratio, but they claim a total harmonic distortion of 0.00018%. So that's actually pretty incredible if that is true, and I have no reason to believe it's not. It's just what they claim, and every manufacturer has their claims. So anyway, it's intended for headphones from 16 to 600 ohms. And the power output of the headphone amp, and this is from the balanced output, which is going to be more than from the single-ended, but from the balanced output, they claim 313 milliwatts into 32 ohms, or 114 milliwatts into 600 ohms. The size of this unit is 8.5 inches wide. It's 6.5 inches deep, and that includes the knobs and the connections on the back, and it's about 2.5 inches tall. The weight is only 1.9 pounds. It's actually very light, and it's entirely made of plastic except for the connections. The headphone jacks and mic, according to the website, are gold plated, and then you got your RCA in the back, but I'll give you a closer look at all that in a minute. This unit comes with one USB cable that is a Type A to Type C. It comes with an optical cable that's 4.9 feet long, and it comes with a 3.5 millimeter to RCA cable, and that's 6.5 feet long. And I will roll in and show you the unit a little closer. And like I said, it's got a ton of feature and a ton of buttons. So I'll start on the front. You've got your power button here. You've got your the light's not right here. I believe this is your Bluetooth connection here, that you push that to link up your Bluetooth. You've got your display button here, which scrolls through. You can scroll it to either your volume, your input sample rate, what else? It tells you which EQ setting you're on. It tells you if you're in direct or DSP mode. And it also tells you if you're on headphone amp or speaker. So I think this works as a preamp where your outputs on the back are volume controlled. So then you've got your mic, turn it on and off. You've got a volume control or output level control of your mic. You've got your high gain switch for your headphone amp, high-low. This button switches it back and forth from either a headphone output or a speaker output through your RCA. So you've got your direct or DSP button here. You've got your EQ button here that you can scroll through your 3 different EQ settings, which are either music, games, movies, or off. And then you've got your switch here where you switch this to either connect to your PC, your computer, or your and to a game like a PlayStation, something like that. Then you've got your mic input, you've got your 3.5 millimeter single-ended headphone output, and your 4.4 millimeter balanced headphone output, and then a very large volume knob. On the rear, you have your set of RCA line outs, your RCA line ins. You've got your Tosh-Link or optical input and output, and then you've got your USB in. There is no power supply on this. It runs off of your USB from your computer or whatever that provides your music or whatever, and it also provides the power to this, and that's pretty common with a lot of smaller amp DACs. And then this is your USB host. And like I said earlier, you can either plug an optional USB transmitter on this, which you can buy through them. I didn't actually look it up or see how much it costs. And or you can plug in USB speakers, a USB mic, or a USB headset to this. So that gives you a pretty good look at it. And I did want to mention build quality. I mean, as far as the quality of it, there's no flaws. I mean, it looks perfect. The only real opinion I have about it, it does feel kind of cheap. It's entirely plastic, and like I said, only weighs 1.9 pounds. It's very light, and all the buttons, all the knobs, everything are plastic. And to be honest, it just has kind of a cheap feeling to it. For $279 or $280, I mean, it just things like the volume knob, it just, like I said, the power button, feels like it's a 25-cent button. I honestly don't know how well it's going to hold up, but like I said, it just has kind of a cheap feeling to it. But other than that, I mean, like I said, it's not sloppy, it's not done wrong. It's, looks well designed and all that, and like I said, it's got a ton of features, so I'll just leave it at that. So before I get into the sound of this, I did want to mention why this is my second unit. And what happened is I received the first unit, and I'll be honest, it was a couple weeks until I got a chance to try it out. I had a lot of equipment come in about the same time. And so a couple weeks later, I tried this out, and whenever I get in a new headphone amp or DAC or any new equipment, I usually start out, I don't plug an expensive pair of headphones into a new piece of equipment. It's possible there's a defect, there's a chance it could have been damaged during shipping, and I don't want to take a chance of harming an expensive pair of headphones. So usually my go-to headphone for trying new equipment is the Hi-Fi Man HE400 SE. And there's two reasons for that. Number one, it's inexpensive. I think currently sells for about $109. The other reason is it's a very power-hungry headphone, so it needs a lot of power, and a sudden burst of power isn't going to harm it like it could a real sensitive headphone. Also, if there's a burst of power, it's not going to be as loud, in my ears, where it could do damage to my ears. So like always, I tried this out with the HE400S or SE, and it seemed to be working okay. So a couple minutes later, I switched over to the Hi-Fi Man Ananda Nano. Now we're talking a much more sensitive headphone and a much more expensive headphone. That's, I think, currently sells at $699. So anyway, I'm listening to this for a few minutes the first version of this for a few minutes with the Hi-Fi Man Anando, and I go to turn the volume, and I was up, actually, I was up at probably the 9 or 10 o'clock. Well, I turned it down. I think I was switching, CDs on my computer or whatever, and I'll tell you about that in a minute, how I had this hooked up. But anyway, I turned the volume down, and then when I went to turn it up, the thing jumped from almost zero volume to almost full volume. And it has a digital display on here. And it starts at, I think, minus 90 decibels. Then it goes to minus 65 decibels, and then I think minus 58 or 55 decibels, something like that. And it should go up gradually, from minus 90, and then full volume would be at minus 0 decibels. Okay. Well, anyway, what happened is I was slowly turning the knob, and it went from minus 65 decibels to minus 4 decibels, which is almost full volume. And with a sensitive headphone that I was using, the Ananda Nano, and fortunately I had it on low gain at the time, but I got this incredibly loud blast of sound in my ears, almost blew my ears out, and fortunately it clicked back to where it should be so fast that it didn't damage the headphones, because I would not be happy if this thing had blown out a $700 pair of headphones. So, at first I didn't realize what happened, so I was messing with the volume knob, and it happened a second time. So I immediately unhooked the Ananda Nano, hooked back up the HE400 SE, which is a lot, takes a lot more power to drive and a lot harder to damage. Took the headphones off my head and messed with it. And if you turned the volume down really slow, it kept doing the same thing. It was jumping from minus 65 decibels to minus 4 decibels and then back down to minus 55 decibels and so on. So it was jumping to almost full volume. So I tried to contact Creative Labs to let them know this, okay? But here's the problem. They contacted me through Messenger, and because of the headphone group, it is not uncommon for me to get 20, 30 private messages in a single day from people I don't even know, okay? So I went into my Messenger list of contacts, and I knew that it had been, like maybe 3 or 4 weeks since this person had contacted me, but I didn't remember their name. Well, I scrolled through there and went through it over and over and over and could not find the message that I received as to who it was that sent this to me. So I kind of gave up on it that night and forgot about it for a couple weeks. So anyway, a couple weeks later, I thought, I need to take care of this. I need to let these people know that they sent me an amp that's not reviewable. So went back and had to go through, and I narrowed it down to, like a week or so where I knew the message came in. But I still had probably like 50 names to go through, and I had to click on every name and finally, find the message that came to me because, like I said, I didn't remember the name of the person. Finally found the message where they contacted me and sent them a message letting them know that I had a defective unit and I offered to ship it back. I did ask them to send me a, prepaid shipping label, but I offered to ship it back. Okay, so first of all, they said, someone said, well, I talked to one of our techs. That seems to be impossible, what you say it's doing. Well, I don't know if it's impossible, but it's what it was doing. It was jumping from minus 65 to minus 4 decibels and then back down to 55 or 58 or whatever the next step is. So anyway, didn't hear back, and like a week later, I get a new unit in the mail. So they just sent me a new one. So I still have the old one, which I offered to send back, still have the new one. So anyway, I'm just now finally getting around to doing my first impressions, and because it kind of got bumped back on the list again. Once again, I had a lot of equipment in, and this is a busy time of my year. So that said, in reviewing this, basically the equipment I use, because this has a USB input, so I used it on my desktop, and I haven't tried the optical input because, to be honest, in my main system I don't have anything comparable to compare this to, so I compared it out here on my desk. And really, honestly, the only thing I really have to compare it to right now is the i5 Zen DAC, which is just a headphone amp, but it's a headphone amp and DAC, and a little bit cheaper, but I'll get into that. So anyway, I have this hooked up with the USB input from my HP desktop computer. It's running Windows 10. I'm using Windows Media Player, and I'm listening to CDs that were ripped in WAV lossless format. And the headphones that I've used so far with this are the Hi-Fi Man HE400 SE that I mentioned earlier, the Hi-Fi Man Sundara, and the Hi-Fi Man Ananda Nano. I have not tried any more expensive headphones with this because I want to make absolutely sure that this unit is okay. I'm not going to plug $1,000, $2,000. I've got headphones all the way up to the $6,000 Hi-Fi Man Sesvara. I'm not going to plug a more expensive set of headphones into this until I'm absolutely sure this unit is okay. I've got a few hours in on it. It does seem to be okay. So before I do my full review, I will try, you know, some higher end headphones with this. So anyway, basically the sound, it sounds pretty neutral, maybe just a little slightly on the warm side of neutral. It's very clean, it's very clear. The detail is very good. It has a large sound stage, good width. Can't tell you if it has good depth because none of the headphones that I've used so far with this really have a lot of depth, so I can't tell. It seems pretty dynamic and punchy, and it does have enough power for the Hi-Fi Man Sundara, which is kind of a medium hard dynamic, or not dynamic, planar magnetic headphone that does require a decent amp to power it, and this does seem to have enough power to make the Sundara sound good. Has plenty of power for the Ananda Nano, which is actually easier to drive. The Sundara really needs about 1 watt per channel to really take it to its potential. This may be a little bit short, but it does a very good job with the Sundara. So bottom line on the sound, this is a good DAC and amp. It does sound very good. It, like I said, very clean, very good sound, has enough power. As far as a DAC and amp, I've got no complaints. It has a good sound to it. As far as comparing it, the only thing I've compared it to so far is, like I mentioned back here. Oh, I did want to mention the EQ function before I forget. I tried the EQ. The music setting, to me, made all three of the Hi-Fi Man headphones too bright in the upper mid-range, lower treble. The setting called music, just it made it really bright in the upper mid-range. And I don't mind bright treble, but the upper mid-range, when it's bright, it's just too harsh. So I didn't like the music setting. The movie setting just made the whole thing, it made it very mid-range forward. I'm guessing that's for, you know, dialogue in movies, and it just sounded kind of flat and boring. The game setting added a little bass to the sound. It did give more weight to the bass. So if you are a little bit of a bass head, not extreme, it didn't add a lot of bass, but it added maybe 3 decibels of bass to the low, you know, to the low end using the game setting. That didn't seem to really change the sound other than that. So I actually preferred the EQ on the off position. So the only thing I compared this to is the iFi ZenCan and my ZenCan, or not the ZenCan, it's the Zen DAC, which is a combination DAC and amp. And this happens to be the original. This is the first version, which sold for $129. I think the Zen DAC 2, which has replaced it, sells for $199, and I think it has a few more features. I haven't heard it, and a little more power, a little more performance. But basically, I would put this sound-wise as a headphone amp and DAC on about the same level as the iFi Audio Zen DAC. So the iFi Audio Zen DAC, the original, was $129. The new latest version of it, which I'm sure is as good or better, is $199. This happens to sell for $279.99. So, but this has the features that a gamer is going to need: the mic input, the headset, USB headset connection, all that. So as a headphone amp, it's a pretty decent headphone amp, but it's on the level of maybe a $150, $200 headphone amp DAC combination. I do have some others I can compare it to, but to be honest, everything else I have is quite a bit more expensive. The closest thing I have right now is the Hi-Fi Man EF400, which sells at $399, and I'm pretty sure that this is not going to hold up very well in a comparison to that as a headphone amp. So I've got the Topping E30 DAC, which is a fantastic DAC. This sells for about $150. I could compare the DAC and that to the DAC and this. And what else? I've got this Hi-Fi unit here, but the Hi-Fi Neo ISD2 is going to blow this away. So basically, you're getting a pretty good headphone amp in this. You know, like I said, the equivalent of maybe a $150, $200 headphone amp and DAC. So I guess it's up to you as a gamer whether the gaming features of this are worth the extra $80 or so. And maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not a gamer. I don't know how, you know, I'm assuming you need a headset and all that stuff to be a gamer. So, you know, like I said, if you're just looking at this for the headphone amp and DAC, no, there's better choices for the price. But if you need the gaming features, I'm sure, like I said, I'm not a gamer, so I didn't try those, but I'm sure because this is a good DAC and headphone amp, it probably works fine for that. So anyway, this is just my first impressions. I will try to grab a few things that I can compare to this that are in a similar price range. But once again, you know, I'm not a gamer, but I explained that to them. They contacted me. If they've watched any of my videos, they know that I'm not a gamer. If they looked at my YouTube site, I've got almost 300 videos and not one of them on gaming equipment. So, you know, I did what I told them I would do. I offered a fair and honest review, you know, and that's what I gave. So like I said, it's a pretty decent headphone amp and DAC, and the build quality seems a little cheap, but everything seems functional. And you know, I'm not telling you you shouldn't buy it. I'm just saying, you know, if you're a gamer and you need these features, it might be a good deal. So anyway, I'll wrap it up with that, and I'll try to get back to you in a month or so with a full review on this and try to compare it to a few more things, and possibly try it with some higher end headphones and let you know how it sounds, you know, with something a little further up the ladder, maybe, you know, something like the Aria Nano or something like that. So anyway, thanks for watching my video, and if this helped you at all, please give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't. And the Headphone Experience on Facebook just hit 32,000 members last night, and you're all welcome to join us over there. And once again, thanks for watching my video.